welcome to Wrestling at Random. I'm Jeremy Deemer.
And I am Adam Summers.
And this is the podcast where every week we dump all the internet's wrestling content we can find into the randomizer. We fire it up, and the randomizer will pick a show for us to watch completely at random. And this is a first-time trip for us. We're going to Louisville, Kentucky for an episode of Ohio Valley Wrestling, August 28th, 1999.
Yeah, this is one of those where we say from time to time that there are certain episodes of this podcast that prove that the randomizer is in fact real and it is not gimmicked in any conceivable way. And
we're not just watching our favorite shows? This isn't your favorite episode of OVW television?
Yeah, the fact that first we're going to OVW and that second it's this random episode from August of 1999, which as we go through as this hour of TV unfolds, I think you will find that, yes, absolutely, from a star power perspective, this would not have been the episode of OVW that we would have chosen.
The Nightmare, Danny Davis. He started OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, in 1998. Jim Cornette, who was on the WWF creative team, joined OVW as a booker. They officially became a developmental territory for the WWE in 2000. The territory was supposed to be the first stage where WWF sends their young talent before they go to Memphis and then the WWF. Among those who trained there extensively before coming to WWE are John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista, Brock Lesnar, and many others. Jim Cornette, he was fired in 2005 and was replaced by Paul Heyman. Heyman was brought up shortly after this OVW stint to run the new WWE ECW relaunch. And in February of 2008, the WWE would sever its ties with Ohio Valley Wrestling. They moved all of their developmental training and their wrestlers to Florida and the new Florida Championship Wrestling, which in our if you listen to our NXT episode or our Florida Championship Wrestling episode in our Patreon or bonus content feed, you get some extra history about Florida Championship Wrestling and the rest of the developmental system there. But here we're covering this time period. This was 1999, so this is in the early days of Ohio Valley Wrestling.
And it's interesting. We'll get into it later on in one particular segment. If you watch this show, you would believe that they are already a WWE developmental territory the way they're talking about one particular wrestler and one particular storyline. I will also say I'm disappointed that as you went through your history of OVW, you left out the illustrious, legendary run as a booker in OVW from Tommy Dreamer.
That's right.
Which some people have called the worst run of any booker in any even somewhat major promotion in American wrestling history, and that includes Vince Russo.
Now, me personally, I got into OVW in, I'd say this, probably the early, the early 2000s, 2001-ish probably is when I got into OVW because they, I would read the reviews in the Observer newsletter of the TV, and I would read it in Alvarez's Figure 4 weekly newsletter. I'd get the recaps of it, and I'm like, oh, this sounds awesome. This sounds like great TV. And WWF was sending their talent that wasn't being used down there to work with the guys, and there were some stars, there were some great matches, and it sounded like just a ton of fun stuff. And Ohio Valley Wrestling did a mail order VHS subscription in those early 2000s. So I remember I signed up for it, and I would get OVW VHS tapes of the TV show. So it'd have like a few episodes, like 3 episodes of the TV show on one VHS that would be mailed to my house. So
That's hilarious. So basically,
awesome.
you were doing with OVW what I was doing with bootleg Japanese wrestling TV at the same time.
Except I was not bootlegging my OVW. I was getting it directly from Louisville. They were just mailing out tapes, and it was awesome. It was some of my favorite wrestling were those old OVW TV shows. So I hadn't watched, this early of OVW, going to 1999 for this episode, and it's pretty similar, but the talent level is so far below where it would be in the early 2000s.
Yeah, that was going to be one of the questions that I had as we came into this show, because while you clearly were very familiar with watching OVW TV, I've never seen a full episode. I've seen clips, I've seen matches, I've seen hidden gems on the old WWE network, but never a full episode of TV. I had heard you talk about how much you enjoyed it. I had heard other people talk about how great it was. And I had questions after watching this episode. One is, was their roster always only 7 people?
No.
That's question number 1. Question number 2, is this where they always tape TV? Because if you can do a fashion corner on OVW, it's incredible that this building, the Danny Davis Arena, is so small that one side of the ring is pushed up against a wall, to the point to where I worry that if someone hits the ropes at a high rate of speed, they may smack the back of their head on that concrete wall.
Now, when they became an official developmental territory, and they were able to move to the new Davis Arena.
Okay.
Because just to let you know what kind of big money WWF was throwing around at the time for their developmental territory, they had an annual budget of $250,000 for the entire developmental program.
It certainly sounds like that would be a step up over what this show.
No, they definitely got to upgrade the Davis Arena to a larger looking warehouse. But same vibe.
Well, yeah, this building, like, not only is there the one side that's pushed, that the ring is pushed up all the way against the wall, but as far as the camera situation, you've got the one hard cam that they barely use, and then there's not an actual ringside camera on the floor. There's no cameraman on the floor because, again, there's no room. So it's sort of a secondary hard cam off to the left that I assume is up on a little bit of a platform, and it leads to there's some moments where you can tell they don't know which hard cam is the hard cam they're supposed to play to.
Yeah, for sure. The production, the backstage segments were a lot better as they went along.
Oh my God. The backstage segments were, they were they were better. The thing though, talk about the building and talk about a fashion corner for the building. The show has a bit of the studio vibe. There's the desk, but behind the desk is this huge mural of a giant bald eagle and the biggest American flag you've ever seen. It is hilarious, particularly when all these other studio TV shows, which granted, this is a good 10 to 15 years after kind of the death of that type of TV on a national or even like main regional scale, they don't have ostentatious looking backdrops for where their announcers sit. It's usually just a blank background or a little logo of the show. This is Team America for sure.
It was what the vibe you get from this show is Jim Cornette picking right back up from where Smoky Mountain left off.
Yes, Jim Cornette picking up right where Smoky Mountain left off, or to me even more, this show looks like it could have been mixed in with all those late stage, very sad mini territories that were on the Pro Wrestling Plus and Pro Wrestling This Week episodes that we've reviewed. It sort of had that same feel, but from a booking standpoint, as it goes through, it definitely feels like an even lower budget version of Smoky Mountain. The other thing that I noted, and granted, we haven't even got into the show, but just when I watch this, it's like, this is the type of show that Jim Cornette was trying to produce with that early Jim Cornette era Ring of Honor episode that we watched.
Yes.
But instead, he had all work rate guys instead of talkers. Whereas here, there are no work rate guys. There are guys who can't really talk that well, but that's at least their thing is talking more than wrestling. And it doesn't feel quite as, I guess, it's schizophrenic for lack of a better term of show. It at least feels like the people they have booked on the show are the right type of people for a show like this, but we'll get into it.
Yeah. And for sure, like it hit it, it only took a couple years for this to hit its stride, because in the early 2000s, it had the right mix of veterans with the guys who were just below call up to the major league level, and the next generation coming up, like the next recruits coming out of training. So you had like a really good mix, which made for a really good product. And this was the early days. It had not quite hit that stride yet, and so it was like a lot of early guys.
A 93 episode of Eastern Championship Wrestling.
Very much so. Exactly. That's a
95,
good comp.
96, 97.
Jim Cornette would hate that comp, but it's a good comp.
Yes. That's exactly why it's so good, though, because it's why Cornette and Heyman hated each other, because they were so similar. But I guess what you're saying is that for people who do subscribe to our bonus content, or may be motivated to, that if they want to be the randomizer, you would like them to choose an episode of the glory days of OVW rather than this.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, I would go. I would like. Yeah, the Damaja versus Kurt Angle is one of the all-time classics in OVW history.
And the Damaja, who we'll get to, he's one of the Bashams, right? Is that
yes, he ended up becoming Danny Basham.
Doug Basham was Doug Basham, and then because that's another one of those things where, unlike you, I was not seeing OVW, and I would always hear about how amazing Doug Basham was, and I just remember seeing him on SmackDown and being like, "Oh, that's the guy."
Well, that was the classic story where they called up the Basham brothers to be a tag team on SmackDown while they were the main event feud, a blood feud in OVW, and then Jim Cornette had to continuously make changes booking on the fly to make this story make sense on why these guys are now a tag team and now they're best friends on SmackDown. And it was it was quite the pretzel he twisted himself into, but eventually it all made sense. And like, no matter what, it felt like a game where WWE was just trying to mess with Cornette at some point, because it was just they were just booking the opposite of what he was booking in OVW every time. It was definitely funny period for sure.
What you're telling me is that 20 years ago, there was a disconnect between the main roster and developmental.
Yeah, I'm glad you were sitting down for that. Yeah.
I'm shocked. I do not believe this. I need to see those VHS tapes that I'm sure you have in your home currently. But without any further ado, let's get into the show itself.
Those tapes didn't open like this one did with White Wedding by Billy Idol is the song we hear as we see shots of the exterior of the Louisville Gardens. We see clips of Ohio Valley wrestlers in action.
I felt like I may have seen a clip of a young Rocky Maivia as Flex Cavana, but the timing can't work out there because that would have been USWA.
Yeah, that would have been the Memphis.
That would have been like 96, so there's no way. But I felt like I saw that. Maybe it was Rob Conway who kind of felt like he was doing a bit of a rock tribute act here.
We go to the table where Dean Hill and Jim Cornette welcome us to OVW this week.
Dean Hill.
I love Dean Hill. He is so great, and we didn't really get to see him on display here, but he's a super fun color commentator he's like a Louisville cop who's the commentator and the ring announcer. So he'll be like having a conversation and then all of a sudden grab the house mic and do an introduction and then come back to having a conversation with Cornette. It's awesome.
What he seemed like to me was like an SNL skit version of a Bob Caudle or a Lance Russell, like the local sports guy or the local news guy that's thrust into doing pro wrestling and does not really know or understand much about it, but is fascinated by it and is very enthusiastic, almost like a Mike Hogwood on Ring of Honor on HD Net some years ago as well. But yeah,
except he's got an epic handlebar mustache.
Handlebar mustache in an incredible like 70s newsman haircut.
So they preview the matches that are coming up, and then we hear about last week's OVW TV show where the Damaja was attacked by Bolin Services, Kenny Bolin's stable. The Damaja, he was out there. So it was Jack Black and Rob Conway.
Yes, Jack Black, or as they call him, Mr. Black, who, from what I can tell, appears to be Jim Cornette trying to recreate Big Bubba Rogers.
Very much so, as the head of security for Bolin Services. Rob Conway, the OVW champion at this time.
The Iron Man Rob Conway.
So we see just a crazy brawl happen between Damaja and Bolin Services. Someone named Deanna Kane gets the brain damage move.
Yeah, which is basically a Baldo bomb, a neck-hanging tree slam, as it's called. But yes, the brain damage, he hits her with it. He's about to do the same to Kenny Bolin, which I'm dubious of, given the size of both men. But here becomes future WWF superstar, and as I like to think of him more primarily, future All Japan Tag Team Champion, Bull Buchanan.
Bull Buchanan makes the save for Kenny Bolin. He hits his top rope leg drop, and Rob Conway celebrates. Buchanan then hits Damaja with Bolin's briefcase. He's busted open.
Which they call the sack of BS multiple times. I believe that's what Jim Cornette calls it over and over. We should also note that Jim Cornette here, like, don't think that because this is, OVW and there's, 100 people in the crowd and this is not like the glory days of any sort of territory thing. Don't think Jim Cornette is phoning it in. You would think he was calling like a classic, mid 80s territory beatdown. He is on fire here. It's also crazy to hear Jim Cornette as a babyface commentator being outraged by what the heels are doing in a gang attack.
Yeah, there's no heel commentary here. Him and Dean Hill, both babyface commentators. Damage is bleeding all over the place. Geeks run in to help, but Bolin Services beat up the geeks.
Geeks such as Smooth Johnny Spade, one of the 7 men on the show.
So after those clips, we then cut to St. Teresa's Gym in Louisville.
Yes, St. Teresa's Gym, and there's a different gym we'll see later. These look roughly equivalent to the shows that I would see some 5 or 6 years later, IWA Mid-South run in Northwest Indiana. Like these are tiny little places with not entirely huge crowds.
No, there was a hardcore rules match for the championship.
Can we just talk about that for a second? I hate when they call it hardcore rules.
Yes.
There are no rules. Or when they say extreme rules. No, there are no rules.
It's just no rules.
Call it a street fight. Call it a lights out match. Call it whatever you want to call it, but hardcore rules. It's oxymoronic.
The brawl continued after the match to the basement of St. Teresa's Gym.
This is great. And this is, if you follow us on social media, you will have seen a clip of this basement brawl, which included a man getting sent across a table in the basement, which had a bunch of chairs set on it. There's more chairs set up nicely in this basement than there are in Davis Arena proper. We also get at one point a toilet is brought into the proceedings here. There's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, it's so weird. They basically Trailer Park Trash came out to make the save for Damaja after the match.
This guy, Trailer Park Trash, that's his name. That is the name of the wrestling character. I'm assuming first name Trailer, middle name Park, last name Trash, because it's hilarious that Cornette keeps calling him Trash. Like, yes. That's his last name. I lost it several times at that. I also thought, about the synchronicity of the randomizer, how on the show, if you're listening in linear fashion, that just went up a couple days prior on our Patreon /Apple Podcast bonus feed, had Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony in Southern All-Star Wrestling. Dirty White Boy was a guy who was featured prominently in Smoky Mountain. We talked about that last season in the one episode we reviewed. This felt for all the world like Jim Cornette trying to create another Dirty White Boy.
Very much so, yeah. And
if you cross Dirty White Boy with Necro Butcher and have a guy who's so much less entertaining than either of those
way
guys.
less cool than either of those guys.
Yes.
Yeah,
exponentially less cool, if that is a proper way of saying it.
So we're watching this basement brawl. Buchanan has the random toilet. Trash gets slammed on a table. They keep brawling.
It's like stacks.
They keep brawling, and then we cut back to the ring where Damaja is joining Jim Cornette for an interview. So this is bang, bang, bang.
It was jarring because we had the basement brawl, and then obviously that was from before, and then we're led to assume, or we're left to assume, I should say, now we're back at the quote-unquote live show that we're watching now, but it was, like you said, very just one after the other. And yet Damaja comes out, and I got strong Glamour Boy Shane IWA Total Impact vibes from Damaja here, in the sense that the crowd loved him. Clearly, there had been like a story built and a reason why the crowd loved him. But when I saw him on this show, I did not understand why this guy was anything on this program.
Yeah, I mean, he was just he was the guy. Like, he was up and coming as the guy for OVW, and then would be the guy for a long time there.
It's just so weird. He's just not much in the ring. His promo was generic.
His promo skills got way better later in life, but here, yeah, very green, both in the ring and on the promos. But of all the guys in the ring, like him and Rob Conway were, they were in the main event for a reason.
For sure. Oh, going back, by the way, before the brawl in the basement, I was amused by, at the very beginning of when we joined the Louisville hardcore match in progress, hardcore rules match, when Damaja throws Rob Conway into, I don't know if it was a wooden board or maybe it was a door. It felt like they maybe invented game changer wrestling, which I'm sure Jim Cornette would be very happy about.
Yeah, so Damaja says he doesn't want any friends, tells Trailer Park Trash he didn't want his help. Trash comes out to confront Damaja, says...
He does, but first, Trash comes out. He is announced as being from anywhere he wants because his home is mobile. That's what Jim Cornette says. And then his entrance music, I am still laughing about this. It says, and the first line, I wrote it down, all caps, direct quote, "I got ketchup on my blue jeans." That is the entrance music. There are the words in the entrance music of Trailer Park Trash.
Trash confronts Damaja, says he has a problem with Boland's services as well. They should team up. Damaja agrees to a match for Tuesday back at St. Teresa's, this time Falls Count Anywhere.
So it's sort of the loop that they run Tuesdays at St. Teresa, and that's like the big arena show that they'll take.
That's their Omni. Yeah.
That's their Omni. That's their big arena show. And then they do the tapings at the studio every week, and it sort of bridges, that's kind of how they move the storylines along. That seemed to be
right. And then they would eventually, when they got bigger, when they started having WWE guys showing up there, they would build everything to the big summer sizzler at the Six Flags. They would set up a ring at the Six Flags theme park and do a big show there, and it was always there.
Didn't we watch a match early on in the bonus feed that was from one of those big OVW shows? I feel like we did. Maybe I'm completely making that up in my head, but I feel like it pulled an individual match.
Yeah, I don't know if it was from one of those, but I have. Those were the big shows that they would build to. So they would add some additional shows. They're also willing to come do your fundraiser. We saw lots of commercials for that as well. So they're going to team up at St. Teresa's Falls Count Anywhere. We go to commercial.
I like to think that that's the name of the church, by the way, St. Teresa's Falls Count Anywhere.
After commercial, Kenny Boland runs into Nick Dinsmore, a very young Nick Dinsmore here.
A future Eugene, and Nick Dinsmore is out back cutting a promo when Kenny Bolin arrives and has an offer.
He offers him a contract to join Bolin Services. He's willing to let Nick keep 50% of his earnings. And
yeah, that was great. Just said that deadpan like that. Like that's a good deal. You can join Bolin Services and immediately lose half your income. Sign right here on the dotted line, kid. Kenny Bolin, well, he's not a Bobby Heenan or Jim Cornette or Gary Hart level manager. For what this is, he's pretty darn good.
He absolutely is, yeah. And then Nick Dinsmore turns him down. Back to the ring, we have the OVW Southern Tag Team Champions in the ring, the Suicide Blondes. Jason Lee, accompanied by Rip Rogers.
I do feel the need to note that for you fans of Japanese wrestling, maybe you listeners of the Big Audio Nightmare, this is not Jason Lee from Dragon Gate.
No, it is definitely not. Good warning.
I would have loved to see Jason Lee from Dragon Gate teaming with Rip Rogers. That would have been even more ridiculous than this Jason Lee teaming with Rip.
Their opponents, so Jason Lee is going to take on the aforementioned Nick Dinsmore in this match. And then we hear Jim Cornette on commentary remind us that Bolin will sell you the glasses on your own face.
That is a great line. It's Cornette has a few of them here, a few classic lines. That's one of them. I should note, by the way, just to be clear, I went back and checked, and I do not believe we reviewed any individual OVW matches on the bonus feed. So I don't know why that popped into my mind, but I don't want to lead people astray. There are plenty of other reasons.
Oh, there's plenty of reasons to dig
get
into
to that later.
Feed. Yeah.
But that is not on there as of yet.
So this is all Dinsmore. We get a float over, double underhook suplex, drop kicks by Dinsmore.
Dinsmore looks fantastic. And for somebody like, I don't think I ever saw Nick Dinsmore outside of the Eugene gimmick, although I do feel like he may have actually wrestled in, am I hallucinating that he wrestled in WCW as a jobber? I feel like that happened.
Yeah, maybe a match or two. Not
outside of that, I never saw him other than as Eugene, and we talked about Eugene on a previous episode of this podcast in a terrible match and segment with Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon.
Oh, that's the Taboo Tuesday show.
Oh,
you go back to that. If you listen to that Taboo Tuesday show, the show that almost made me quit the podcast. I almost quit with that show.
It was even worse. In some ways, that may have been even more of a depressing show than ECW December to Dismember. Because with that, I think
it was so much harder to watch. Oh,
well, we knew that was coming. And it was also like barely over 2 hours. Whereas this was, I was not prepared for how bad it was going to be. Wow. Oh, by the way, I was correct. Nick Dinsmore had quite a few matches in WCW.
Did he?
In 1998 going into 1999. He challenged on a dark match of Thunder. In August of 1998, he challenged Juventud Guerrera for the Cruiserweight Championship. And then let's see, in 1999, he had his last match in WCW was teaming with Mike Sullivan, losing to Scott and Steve Armstrong on WCW Saturday Night. So just a few months before this show, about a half a year before this episode of OVW, Nick Dinsmore was in WCW.
After looking good early, Dinsmore misses a drop kick and Lee is on the attack. He puts Dinsmore on the top rope and hits a top rope Frankensteiner from Lee.
Lee, though, he does some high-flying stuff, but he's really a very generic, very Kirkland's version of Scotty 2 Hotty would be my best.
Yeah, a total zero here. Leans over Dinsmore with an arrogant cover. Dinsmore kicks out. Dean Hill is outraged at this cover. Jim Cornette's talking about how Rip Rogers is an influence on Lee. I thought that was really good, putting over how important Rip Rogers is. Bolin's at ringside now. He makes his way down. Lee goes to the top. Dinsmore crotches him, hits a belly-to-back suplex off the top rope. An atomic drop, an inverted atomic drop. They go and they trade standing switches until Dinsmore gets him in a German suplex. Rip Rogers then hits the ring for the disqualification.
Yes, and so we're going to have another heel beatdown here, which is not all that shocking considering what this is. But yeah, I continue talking about that. I'm distracted. I'm not going to lie. I'm going down a rabbit hole of Nick Dinsmore in WCW. It is incredible. His debut match in WCW, and this apparently was on TV against or on Saturday night. It was against Kaz Hayashi.
Wow.
He also wrestled. His only match where he did not lose, he went to a no contest with Canyon. He was defeated by Horace Boulder. He was defeated by The Cat, Norman Smiley, Stevie Ray, and in a match that I desperately need to see, Van Hammer.
After this beatdown, they run down the card for the upcoming St. Teresa's Gym show.
Ohio Valley Wrestling returns to St. Teresa's Gym at 1101 East Kentucky Street in the Germantown area this Tuesday night, August 31st at 7:30 p.m. In a showdown tag team match, Iron Man Rob Conway and Bull Buchanan with their manager Kenny Bolin combine to face the team of Trailer Park Trash and the Damager with pinfalls counting anywhere in Louisville. In a strap match, both men fasten together left wrist to left wrist by a 10-foot leather strap. Rico Constantino battles Flash. The OVW Light Heavyweight Championship is on the line as sexy Sean Casey defends against the Eagle, plus Johnny Spade, Juan Hurtado, the Andrettis, and more. This Tuesday night, August 31st, St. Teresa's Gym, 1101 East Kentucky in Louisville. Bell time, 7:30 p.m. for Ohio Valley Wrestling. Tomorrow's superstars, today.
Well, they run down the card, but the way they do this, they go to a break, like they pitch it to a break, and then there's this static screen with like blurred out wrestling action happening, and you are waiting and waiting and waiting for graphics to pop up on the screen.
No graphics.
And tell you what the matches are. Instead, it's Jim Cornette reading off the matches, but we never get a graphic, and we've got just this blurred out screen of wrestling for at least a minute. This is very strange. I don't know if because like the version we watched, which was on YouTube, you know, it has a test pattern.
Yeah, my guess is it was added after the...
I would think so, yeah, because this... I know this is 1999.
It needed graphics, and I think they added it eventually. The cut we saw did not have them, but no, I would think the aired one had it, yeah.
Very awkward, and even for Kentucky TV in 1999, I don't know that would have been best practices to have a static screen of nothing for 90 seconds while a guy was talking.
Jim Cornette's talking on the phone. He's negotiating with a superstar who's going to be coming to OVW.
What a tease. And when they said that, I thought, oh man, big WWF star, because I was under the impression at this point they were already a developmental territory. I do want to go back and mention one thing because it sounds so much more entertaining than anything else that we actually saw on this show. Apparently, in the relatively recent past before this episode aired, the Suicide Blondes defended the tag team titles in OVW against the Rock and Roll Express.
They did.
I want that.
That sounds awesome.
It does. Give me that. Rip Rogers and Ricky Morton going at it in 1999.
We see a clip of Flash, formerly Flash Flanagan, now just Flash from last week. He got fined for beating up referees. He was fined $1,000. And Trailer Park Trash, his former tag team partner, came out to break this up.
Well, before it happened, so Flash is cutting a promo talking about how he's complaining about having been fined before. He says he's been fined $1,000, and then he says, oh, so just make it $1,500, and then he immediately just obliterates the referee.
I like that a lot. That was good.
Just kills him. That was awesome. And for people who listen to that IWA Total Impact Puerto Rico episode on the bonus feed, you will know that we really liked what we saw.
Yeah, we
Flash
did.
Flanagan on that show. He's a guy that I definitely remember from, around this time period, a little bit before, a little bit after. You read about him a lot in the magazines. You'd see him occasionally as a jobber on WCW television, and it seemed like there was something there. He was in OVW and in the WWE system forever without really getting a chance. But he, to me, by far, like just in the first 10 seconds that we see him here saying that and then clocking the ref, he's the best thing we've seen on this show.
Absolutely. And Trailer Park Trash is out there, and we get a bell ringing, and an impromptu match begins.
Yes.
And then, right as the match begins, Flash hits Trash with a chair to the head, and we get another bell, already a disqualification.
We are still definitely firmly in the chairs to the head are okay part of pro wrestling history. We see that multiple times on this show. Trailer Park Trash. You think he is Necro Butcher here, the way he gets killed with that chair shot. Then Flash rolls him back in the ring, Pillmanizes the leg of Trailer Park Trash over and over. This is again where Jim Cornette is selling this as though it's the Horseman turning on or the Horseman turning on Sting and taking him out, like it's that level of passion from Jim Cornette. And then your close, longtime personal friend, although visually he looked a lot different than I remember, Rico Constantino hits the ring.
Rico makes a save. This is mulleted, no sideburns, very muscular Rico Constantino.
Singlet, babyface Rico Constantino.
Yeah, so he comes out to make the save, and they will meet Tuesday at St. Teresa's.
Well, they almost didn't get there, though, because Rico went for a clothesline. Flash ducked, and Rico goes over the top. And as he goes over the top, as he rotates over, his neck hits the bottom rope. And that could have been really, really bad. So he made it through, though. We see Flash gets the advantage again. He whips Rico over and over and over. He's choking him with the belt. And
then he channels his inner Yano and gets the duct tape out to tape Trailer Park Trash to the bottom rope to allow him to whip Rico with the belt. Flash comes out to get interviewed by Dean Hill.
Yeah, so apparently that was video from last week. They weren't overly clear about it, but that was video from last week. And now he's here being interviewed by Dean Hill.
Last week's show was so awesome. Yes. This week they just showed us last week's show.
Exactly. Pretty much. Last week, all the best stuff on this episode is either from the arena shows over the past couple of weeks or from last week's TV. The stuff that's actually from this week's TV, not much. So at least they had they were kind enough to show us that stuff. But Flash comes out. He's wearing a Raw is War shirt. And apparently the whole story is that he's losing his mind and blaming everyone about the fact that he does not yet have a contract with the WWF. So this is where I'm confused, because this sure as hell makes it feel as though they are, in fact, a developmental territory. Was there an informal agreement at some point, or on some level with them at this point?
Yeah, no, I mean, they had some of these guys were signed, but not most of them. There was some, but not most. And
I assume Dinsmore might have been one of them.
Yeah, but they were not an official. They were not an official territory yet. Yeah. So. Flash is jealous because everyone's getting WWE deals and he didn't get one. And
he's jealous about everyone getting WWE deals but him. But then in his promo, like 15 seconds in, he completely loses his place and has to start over.
This was not a good promo.
This was particularly not a good promo if your character is, I should be in the WWF. Why am I not there?
Yes, this is why, sir. But the best part of this promo, by far, was Dean Hill's appalled face at Flash's comments. This was the highlight.
His appalled face at Flash's comments. Then when Flash takes out the leather strap and starts whipping the mat, saying that's what he's going to do to Rico Constantino, Dean Hill's shocked face there is great as well.
The sexiest man on earth, the god of sex, sexy Sean Casey, is with two women under a shade tree telling us all about this.
Well, one of the two women is a surprise, though, because there's the one woman next to him. And then as he's talking about being the god of sex, and when things get so hard and all these other double entendres, the second woman rises up from below. The only thing I'm confused by is I remember a Sean/Steve Casey when I was a kid. This is not that guy.
Not that guy. I went and looked it up. I'm like, who is this guy?
I figured it was possible because Rip Rogers was a mainstay, so why not?
No, I looked him up, and this Sean Casey, he mentioned his Playgirl posing, and he was the only other wrestler besides Shawn Michaels to pose in Playgirl magazine. So he did.
Jim Cornette pointed that out as well. When I saw this guy, I'm like, wait, is it possible that Rhett Titus didn't actually train at the Ring of Honor school, and Rhett Titus actually started in the late 90s?
Very good comp. That is exactly who Sexy Sean Casey is. And I looked. This guy went nowhere, did nothing. He
went to Ring of Honor. It's Rhett Titus.
Yeah, so he had no career whatsoever. This was the extent of Sexy
when we
Sean
get
Casey.
to when he hits his finisher, that'll explain to you why he has no career.
Yeah, so Jay Gillette is challenging Sexy Sean Casey.
Though, because Jay Gillette, his name is Jay Gillette. Yet his tights say Kid, K-I-D-D.
K-I-D, that's it.
K-I-D-D. So not Kid as though he's Jay the Kid Gillette.
No.
K-I-D-D as though that's his last name.
He's challenging for the OVW Light Heavyweight Championship against Sexy Sean Casey with the Sexettes. That's who the two women are. They're the Sexettes.
The best part is that Dean Hill totally messes it up and calls them like the Sexettes. I think just because Dean Hill is so pure that he couldn't bring himself to say the word sex.
It was great. He was all flustered. He was very flustered about it.
It was perfect. It took a couple tries. This had big NWA World Junior Heavyweight title vibes. I was looking for Denny Brown here.
Yeah, so Sean Casey never did anything, and we know why. He grabs the mic. He tells the ladies on the bandwagon it's time to get off. I was not shocked that he was not over one bit with any of the people here in Louisville.
I will note, by the way, that when I look up Jay Gillette, the first thing that comes up is Jay Gillette Property Inspector.
Nope.
And then when I look up Jay Gillette Cage Match, looking to find anything about him on cagematch.net, it looks like there aren't many great matches for your search, Google tells me. It says, tip, try using words that might appear on the page you're looking for. For example, cake recipes instead of how to make a cake.
Try Jay Gillette Kid with 2 Ds, like his pants.
Jay Gillette Kid. So wait, this is it. Jay Gillette, but it's spelled Jaillet, not as in Gillette the shaving cream.
Oh yeah, there you go.
This man was still wrestling into 2009. This man teamed in the Chikara King of Trios 2007 with US Ape and the Patriot.
Wow.
To lose to Icarus, Gran Akuma, and Chuck Taylor. He wrestled as J Kidd.
There it is.
There are only 5 matches listed for this man on Pro Fight DB, one of which is the first match listed is Jay Gillette versus Sean Casey, OVW TV taping, August 25th, 1999. He apparently developed a great rapport with Bull Buchanan because he wrestled him 1 year later on Jacked. He also lost to the Big Boss Man on August 14th, 2000 for Jacked. I mentioned the Chikara match, and then the NEW March Mayhem Tour in 2009. Talk about a Ring of Honor connection. He went to a draw with Matt Taven.
Double underhook suplex, and Gillette is on fire early. Drop toe hold, drops an elbow.
You could see why he got 4 more matches with this fire over the next decade.
He put him in like the rocking chair move, and then
no, that is the pendulum of pain, my friend. That is an easy money move. Which he would have been. Could you imagine if he had been on this show? He would have looked like Lou Thez, Karl Gotch, Mitsuhara Misawa. He would have been great. Also, by the way, another comp physically, Sean Casey, Truth Martini.
I was thinking more Michael Shane.
Oh yeah, Michael Sheen was not out of shape, but he was a little more doughy. Sean Casey is
he's in shape.
He's like Truth Martini that lifts.
So Casey gets the advantage with a downward spiral. Then a
A
sling
flatliner as a transition move. It's so weird. He gets the boot up in the corner, hits a flatliner, and then just does some stomps, and then goes from there to a slingshot suplex.
A slingshot suplex by Casey, which gets a Tully Blanchard reference from Jim Cornette. Terrible strikes in the corner by Casey. Punches and forearms that were just horrendous. Gillette hits a famouser, and then
he hits a famouser. Before that, though, the match falls apart for a moment. Casey goes for a clothesline. Gillette ducks. Casey spins around, and then time stops as they just stare at each other, as though they had never encountered this situation in training and had no idea what to do. Casey finally snaps out of it and hits a jawbreaker. Gillette, as you said, then hits a famouser, but also doesn't go for a pin because apparently in OVW, Attitude Era finishers are transition moves. And then Sean Casey hits a move. It is his finish, which is so fitting because you talk maybe not about look or physique, but spiritually, maybe the best comp for Sean Casey.
Danny Doring.
Dastardly Danny Doring. And Sean Casey uses the bareback.
He did.
The reverse stunner.
Wrestling physics be damned. The reverse stunner is his finisher for the victory.
The dumbest move. Just imagine, if you will, hugging another human being, dropping to one knee, and this causes the other person enough pain that they're incapacitated for a 3 count in a professional battle.
After commercial, we find out that there's a new match for Tuesday at St. Teresa's Gym. Tag team titles. The Suicide Blondes are going to defend against Nick Dinsmore and the man who Jim Cornette was on the phone with earlier. The Nature Boy Buddy Landel is coming into OVW.
And you might have thought that, well, Buddy Landel coming into OVW in 1999, that's not them bringing in a major WWE star, WWF star. However, Buddy Landel made 2 appearances on Shotgun Saturday Night in 1999.
Wow.
He lost to The Godfather. That's weird enough, right? His last match in the WWF, of the 2 that he had in 1999, he lost to Triple H.
So weird.
He also, in 1997, wrestled in both the WWF and WCW. He was defeated in his only WCW match in 1997 by Bill Goldberg. But also had a match that same year in the WWF in a losing fashion in Knoxville, Tennessee to T.L. Hopper.
That's a lot of range, Buddy Landel.
Who was Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony. But yes, imagine being in the 2 major companies in wrestling for 1 match in the same year, and you lost to Goldberg and T.L. Hopper.
We see a clip of Rico. After losing, he had to take 10 lashes from Flash. We see clips of that.
That was awesome, by the way. That footage, that was great. That looked, though, like it was straight out of the Lincoln Center. Again, IWA Mid-South, a tiny little gym. But he had lost the Flash, and he had to take the 10 lashes. And he did
it like a fiery baby face in the corner, looking away, taking his lashes, and
like a young Tommy Dreamer.
Yes, this was great.
This was very good stuff.
And then afterward, he's in the back showing the camera the lash marks on his back. Cuts a promo saying that he's going to draw blood with the strap in this strap match with Flash.
Yeah, perfectly fine, intense babyface promo. I mean, nothing great, but it got the job done.
Back to the Davis Arena, Vito Andretti, accompanied by Guido Andretti.
This is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. These guys, they're dressed up like they work in a car shop.
Mechanics. They're like mechanics. Yeah.
They're from Gasoline Alley, and their last names are Andretti. Like they're the long lost sons of Mario Andretti. This is as bargain basement as it gets.
And Vito Andretti is taking on Rico Constantino.
Because, again, there are only 7 people on the roster. Everyone must be in 3
Two
seconds.
of them are Andretti's. So
2 of them are Andretti's, yes.
Rico hits the ring. He just charges right in, spears Vito, and beats him down. I'm like, now this is a hot start.
Yes. He is apparently envisioning that the Andretti brothers are Flash.
He goes to the second rope, hits a knee drop. Then Guido Andretti distracts Rico. Some woman named Treasure makes her way out, and then I don't know what happens here. We never see her again.
There's a lot of weirdness that happens in this minute or 90 seconds. First, as you said, Rico hits that second rope knee drop, and then Vito is not injured by this at all. Guido distracts Rico, and then Vito's just up right away. Hits him from behind, and then, as you mentioned, there's a woman that is identified as Treasure. We never see her. We maybe see a shadow of her on the hard cam. They never get anything remotely close to a close-up, and then something happens, and she and Vito disappear.
Her and Guido disappear.
Her and Guido. Sorry, yes. This is like Vito and Guido are basically like Continental jobbers unmasked. I'm not making the effort to know which is A and which is B.
That's fair. Vito ends up getting some shots in, power bombs Rico. He notices his brother has left ringside. I shouldn't assume that they're brothers. He recognizes that Guido has left ringside. Rico then hits a clothesline, a sit-out slam, hits his finisher, and Rico gets the pin.
Rico apparently not hurt by the powerbomb because finishers don't matter here in 1999 in OVW. Like you said, he hits 3 clotheslines, this weird like side power slam thing, pulls the straps down like he's Jerry Lawler in Memphis, and it's an air raid crash or a kryptonite crunch, if you will, to get the victory.
Rob Conway, OVW champion, comes out with Bolin Services.
I thought this was going to be the Road Warriors.
The theme song choice, I have it noted here, is Iron Man, which is a bold choice. I can imagine the look on Jim Cornette's face when they're trying to explain that they're going to come out to Iron Man.
Yes.
So yeah, obviously that was the Road Warriors theme song for the 80s. And so yeah, it's weird to see Bolin Services come out with it now.
Very strange.
Rob talks about the Falls Count Anywhere match. Bolin says Falls Count Anywhere, they might pin him at Old Man Johnson's porch.
I have that written down in all caps as well. I love that. I also loved, as I snort out of laughter, when Kenny Bolin says, "Don't make a fool out of a business typhoon like me."
I have that written down. A business typhoon. Cornette on commentary calls him the most unathletic man in wrestling, which is the same comments that Watts and Jim Ross used to make about Cornette in his prime.
Yes, that was great. Some great symmetry, great callback there.
The main event of this show, if you can call it that.
Yes, we have a guy named Jebediah in the ring who I assume when I wrote my notes down that I meant to say a cowboy-looking geek, but in the haste of writing my notes and apparently autocorrect not working, I have written a codboy-looking geek.
Definitely a cowboy.
I don't know what that means, but I actually feel like it's more appropriate. I feel like that's some sort of like fake cowboy is a codboy, and I feel like that's what Jebediah is here.
His opponent is Bull Buchanan with Kenny Bolin. Bull comes out with handcuffs on.
This guy is unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, his opponent, escorted to the ring by Bolin Services, weighing in at 306 pounds from Eddyville, Kentucky, Bull Buchanan. Man.
My God, and he snapped those handcuffs, those police issue handcuffs, and Dean, you know those well.
Just hold your horses for just a second. I'm not going to mind locking horns with this big bull here. I got no problem with that. But Otter, you fat cow.
Wait a minute.
His old partner.
You and me got a little business to take care of, son.
Jebediah and Jack Black.
Now I know you can't wrestle no more. But I say, me and you just see who can knock whose teeth out of whose head.
Man, the look on Jebediah's face.
Jebediah has challenged Mr. Black. They used to be tag team partners. It was Jebediah that defeated Mr. Black at the Louisville Gardens 2 months ago, causing Mr. Black to not be able to wrestle in OVW.
He breaks the handcuffs to start the match here after the introduction. Jebediah and Black have a quick brawl where we get this whole, like, Jim Cornette is the only guy who can talk fast enough to get in an entire backstory about a side brawl.
Jim Cornette is he's the Excalibur reading next week's matches of this show. He is something else. And also not only like getting through all this, but with the passion that he has when it's Jebediah and Mr. Black, who apparently was called Cousin Otter when he teamed with Jebediah. They had a falling out. They had a falls count anywhere, or excuse me, a loser leaves OVW.
Match, yeah.
That Cousin Otter lost, but apparently he didn't have to leave the territory. He could just no longer wrestle. So now he transformed into Mr. Black, the Big Bubba Rogers style muscle for Bolin Services.
Bolin trips Jebediah, allows Black to get the advantage. Goes for a splash off the top, but Jebediah moves. Bull Buchanan then gets on the attack, beating down Jebediah. Bull holds the chair, and Black then comes off the top with his splash onto the chair, crushing Jebediah. He does it twice before Trailer Park Trash comes out to make the save. Rob Conway hits Trash with the briefcase. The Damager comes out. He runs wild. Everyone's brawling in the ring. It's a preview of the Falls Count Anywhere match, and then the wild brawl in the ring continues as the show just goes off the air.
Yes, big brawl at the end. Jim Cornette screaming about, if it's like this now, what will it be like Tuesday at St. Teresa's Falls Count Anywhere Church? My favorite thing about this whole segment is that Jebediah is able to hit a leaping flying shoulder block, and somehow his cowboy hat stays on.
Yes, during that brawl, yeah. So that's it. That's OVW.
This, I don't know. I believe you that it got better.
It did.
And like the format of the show was largely fine outside of a few times where it felt like we were time traveling because they didn't do a good job of explaining what in this same studio was from this week and what was, from the previous week. So that was a bit jarring, but yeah, I don't know. There really wasn't a whole lot here. I would say Jim Cornette on commentary.
Is that your favorite thing? Is that your favorite thing on the show?
I think my favorite thing on the show is honestly looking up guys on Wikipedia.
Sure.
Like finding out that the vague memory of Nick Dinsmore in WCW, or finding that Buddy Landell wrestled TL Hopper and Goldberg in two different companies in the same year. I don't know. I mean, I'd say in-ring Nick Dinsmore looked great. I think the best guy on this show from a wrestling performer standpoint was by far Flash, even though we didn't see him in a proper match. He just looked and moved like a guy who actually was something, which you really couldn't say about anyone else on the show.
I would say the same thing with Bull Buchanan. You could see he had some flashes of impressive moves for a big guy.
Yeah, that top rope leg drop was very impressive for a guy of that size. And that was kind of his calling card. He was a pretty generic wrestler outside of the fact that he could hit some pretty impressive high-flying stuff for a guy his size. I remember he used to do that walk up the top rope in the corner and then jump back off of the clothesline. I think in Japan he would do the Undertaker old school rope walk, clubbing forearm. So yeah, he was fine.
For me, Jim Cornette with the passion, he's the booker. He wrote these storylines for everybody, and so he knows exactly the points to get over. This was like, what was great about Vince McMahon when he was a commentator for things that he cared about, for the stories he was, helping to put together that he cared about, he would be able to get over every little detail. And Jim Cornette does this better than anybody. He's so good at getting across all the points that need to be getting across and to catch you up on all the things that were going on. We parachuted into Ohio Valley Wrestling, and Jim Cornette caught you up on every single thing and the thing that led up to the thing. I mean, we got the whole Jebediah and Otter backstory for a guy who's now Mr. Black as part of Bowling Services, all in the course of like a minute and a half brawl. This was Jim Cornette is a super talent when it comes to the play-by-play.
Yeah, he did a great job here. Yes, and to your point, also he was basically on play-by-play. I mean, he was basically doing the job of play-by-play and color. Dean Hill said very little, and yeah, I can't recall hearing Jim Cornette really play both of those roles on the same show before, much less as a babyface. But he was fantastic here. And as much as this show really didn't do a whole lot for me, I definitely can see how, with better talent, that this formula could make for a really entertaining hour-long weekly show.
Worst thing on this show?
There's a lot there. God, I don't know. I was not overly impressed. I guess he wasn't terrible. Like, he did a few nice things in the ring, but Jason Lee, I didn't think was really much. I would say Trailer Park Trash was pretty much nothing. Good. But as far as like things that made me want to change the channel, I would say that Sexy Sean Casey was not anything that I really had any interest in seeing.
No, and his finisher is the inverted stunner. That is by far the worst thing on this show, no doubt about it. Yeah, no. Honorable mention for a good thing. There was a slam during the Teresa's basement brawl.
Yes.
There was a slam onto a table. They slammed Trailer Park Trash onto a table, and it was Japanese table strength for one of these tables down there in the church basement. That was pretty the honorable mention for that. But no, it was it was a fun show. It looked like last week's show was even more fun. But good news, we got to see most of last week's show this week. So
yeah,
I feel like I didn't miss anything.
The parts of last week's show that were like this week's show are it's probably what they left out in the recap. So.
Yeah, it was maybe recapping the week before. It's like a Ponzi scheme of TV shows.
Good way of putting it.
All right, so with that, we're going to wrap it up. We mentioned a few times today that we have bonus content. We do an extra show every single week, and that's
nearly 60 episodes, if you're listening in linear fashion right now, are waiting for you over on the bonus feed.
That's right. If you sign up, it's like $5 over at the Patreon, $6 in your Apple Podcast feed, or whatever mystery paywall this evergreen content is behind now. You pay that fee for the month. It unlocks the entire back catalog of all the bonus content, 50 plus episodes at the time of this recording, and growing every single week.
Exclusive episodes that you have not yet heard if you listen to the free feed. These are completely different shows that we do just for the bonus feed.
That's right. And you have the opportunity to be the randomizer over there, and you can pick a show for us to watch. If you're always like, oh man, I want Adam to see the Damage and Kurt Angle, I'm going to go pick that show for him to watch over in the bonus content. We will watch it for you if you pick that tier. We also have t-shirts available. All that information is available at patreon.com/wrestlingatrandom. Of course, interacting with the show is our favorite part. We love to hear about your memories. We love to hear about what you like about this show. So interact with us via Twitter is the best way, @WrestleAtRandom. DMs are open, of course. And same for Instagram, @WrestleAtRandom. Facebook.com/WrestlingAtRandom as well. Or you can send us an email, wrestlingatrandom@gmail.com. All those links... We've got a YouTube also.
a thriving YouTube, even though we rarely ever talk about it.
We see you over there, YouTubers. Yeah. It's audio only right now at the time of this recording, but we've got a YouTube community there. You can interact with us in the comments there as well. So, all those links I just described are available. The entire back catalog of this podcast is available at the website, wrestlingatrandom.com. Make sure you tell your wrestling fan friends about us. We rely on your word of mouth to continue to grow the show. So please tell your wrestling fan friends about us. Tell your friends that used to be wrestling fans about us. Maybe they'll take a trip down memory lane with us as well.
Yeah, maybe you have a relationship somewhat similar to that of the damage in trailer park trash. And maybe by listening to this show, you can form an even stronger alliance to fight off your own personal bull and services.
Adam, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy. This, again, the randomizer, it's real, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't believe it before, I think you're convinced now.
I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.